Hello and welcome to Finding Something More to Talk About. I'm Nancy Wrench, your host. I'm sitting with Mary Reuland today, and her story is one of strength, service, and deep love. After a devastating loss, she found a way to turn heartache into healing, not just for her family, but for countless others in need. How are you doing, Mary?
I'm doing okay.
I just want to tell the audience the first time that I met you, which is about 6 or 7 months ago, in our first conversation, I was just so taken aback by your love and kindness and warmth. There is a calmness, there is a kindness, there is a heartfelt woman that is so authentic. Can you share how the loss of your son led to the creation of Konrad A. Reuland Foundation?
People were coming up to me with checks and money and saying they want to donate, which I found a little strange. You know, I'm thinking, I just lost my son, and why are people wanting to give me money? So I did a deep dive into my thinking, and I said, I got to find something. And I talked to my husband. I said, we got to find something. We've got to find a cause. We've got to find a cause to put this towards, and really thought about what Konrad would have liked. And he naturally was helping young children. He wasn't a big brother or did anything with big brothers, big sisters, but that's kind of where it led me to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, because he did that naturally. He would go, and he was a pro football player. When he was home, he would go and help young athletes that were struggling, maybe getting into bad things, drugs, maybe wrong groups, wrong people. He would go and pull them out and say, no, you're not doing this. So he would naturally go and do that. He would help kids that were struggling, and then he became an organ donor. So we kind of did that, and so we started with the Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And then I'm a tennis player, and I got to know the tennis director, and he said, hey, I've seen you on TV, because we found out that his heart and left kidney went to Rod Carew, who is also a famous baseball player, which was rather interesting. Randomly, that happened. It's unprecedented that a heart or any organs randomly go to another pro athlete. This was a random thing. We have no say in any of that. And to find out so soon, we were not supposed to find out for 10 years. But at his funeral, people were coming up to me and asking, do you think it's Rod Carew? And people were like, why are people asking me about Rod Carew at my son's funeral? And Konrad had met Rod Carew, and we knew the family because our kids went to the same grade school as his stepkids. I'm like, why are people asking me about Rod Carew at my son's funeral? I went and researching Rod Carew, and I realized that he got a heart and a kidney from the same day that my son donated. And I actually, his best friend told me at his funeral, he caught me. I went down. I went, oh my God. So I got his wife's phone number, and I called her, and I said, I think your husband has my son's heart and left kidney. Give me a call if you want to talk. And this was literally not even a month after my son had passed. So she took a couple of days, called me. She said, yeah, it can't be possible. My husband has a weird blood type. And I said, hey, listen, my son was O negative. He can donate to anybody. It goes by so many different factors. And so I said, hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to call One Legacy. And they confirmed it. And then the story was out. So that was how we got it to donating to One Legacy. So anyway, the tennis pro recognized me from that. He goes, I've seen you on TV. I said, yeah, it's not for anything good. I told him, you probably have seen our story because it's been out there. And he says, I want to do something. So that's how our foundation kind of got started. I said, I've always wanted to do a tennis tournament, maybe in my son's honor. And he said, awesome. So we started with a small little tennis tournament. We had 13 teams out there, but we earned a little bit, maybe a couple $1,000. Not much, but enough to, people were doing it. And it's really growing every year. So, and then we added pickleball, and then it just took off.
Yeah.
And then we added the auction and the dinner. And so that's kind of how all of that got started.
And I so enjoyed your last event. The only word I can think of is it was authentic.
As the year gets better, having Jim Harbaugh there this year that made it really extra special.
Yes, it was. That was exciting.
Yeah.
It was exciting having that notoriety.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Finding something more often begins in the ashes of grief. How did you start the process of turning pain into purpose?
I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I had to do it. I always said, should something happen to one of my boys, because they were my world, I said, you might as well just bury me with him. But then I looked to my left at his funeral and looked to my right, and I said, I got 2 boys here, and I got my husband. I got to be here. Yeah. So I had to be resilient and do something. So how I did it is I just had to be strong. I just had to, put on my big girl pants so to say, and I had to be strong for them. I had to move forward. And then I found out a month later that I was going to be having my first grandchild. Never thought that I would feel joy again. I'll feel happy again. There'll be some happiness again. But will I ever feel that core joy again? And believe me, when that grandbaby was born, there came the joy.
Mary, you spent over 2 decades running elder care homes. How did that season of your life influence your heart for service today?
Well, I think it helped me find my voice, because it helped me find, I had to be a voice for different people. I used to be very shy. I couldn't speak in front of people, but having to speak for them, people that actually didn't have a voice or they had dementia, it helped me find my voice.
What were some of the most meaningful lessons you learned from caregiving that you've carried into the foundation?
To really stop and listen, and to be present in the moment, to listen to different people's ideas and not just try to force mine on other people. Other people have a voice, and they might have a much better idea than I do.
The work of the foundation, Konrad Reuland Foundation supports multiple causes. Can you tell us more about your focus areas and why they matter to you?
Big Brothers Big Sisters matters a lot, because that's what Konrad did organically and naturally in life. He was always going on. I kind of said it at the foundation, but he used to come back when he was off season or training here at home, and he would go and train young athletes, and maybe they were struggling or something like that, and he'd be looking at them, and they'd be maybe being lazy and not really working hard, and he'd give them a look, a Konrad look, and he'd kind of zero in on them and say, "Hey, what are you doing? What, are you afraid to be awesome? Work harder. You're afraid to be awesome? You're not going to get anywhere doing that. Work harder. You're afraid to be awesome." That was a Konrad term, and so it was really cool. So organically, I thought Big Brothers Big Sisters, because they all looked up to him, and he was a big guy anyway, but brain aneurysm, obviously, because he died of a brain aneurysm, and there's not enough research out there. There's not enough education. People don't understand, there's a strong correlation between kidney disease and brain aneurysms. People don't know that. I didn't know that. And we do have kidney disease in our family, and multicystic kidney disease in our family. We didn't know that.
Oh.
And there's a strong correlation. There's also a correlation. There's more women that get brain aneurysms than men. There's that kind of touches a chord with us as well. And also organ donation, because a lot of people die waiting for an organ before, and there's so many good organs out there. People are afraid to donate. You watch shows like Grey's Anatomy or this or that, and you see these shows where they're fighting over the person. They forget about that person that's lying there generously donating their organs, and they forget that that's actually a person there.
Yeah.
It's not like that. They did everything they could to try to save Konrad. He wasn't going to live. They did everything they could, and they were so respectful and so beautiful at the end. So organ donation was a natural as well. I mean, if you can save a life, why not?
And I think I shared with you, my husband had a heart transplant.
God bless him.
Yeah, 19 years ago, which is really, really something.
And to know that that person that donated, the family knows that part of the family is still living here.
Yes. Organ donation, brain aneurysm education, and supporting underprivileged children. These are big missions. How do you keep it all going?
Our event, we worked very hard on it. What you saw when you came is just the tip of the iceberg. We just had a big party for the volunteers to thank them for all the hard work they did. But we're already starting up again end of June to get the event going. We work on it year round and try to make it a success.
So how active are you, personally active within the organization?
Yeah, we go out there every month to try to get donations and talk to people.
Well, you've been married 40 years. How has your family walked this path together?
When Konrad died, I pulled us all together because somebody said rulers they go in, they don't go out. They pull each other in. So at the hospital, I had to remind everybody that we all grieve. We're all going to grieve. We all grieve differently, and we have to respect that. So that's what I tried to do. I said, we have to respect each other and our grieving process. And when one gets a little cheeky or whatever, I have to pull them aside and say, listen, that's the way they have to grieve. I have to remember that the boys are grieving their brother. We have to respect that too, because that's just as hard as losing a son or a child losing a brother. You're supposed to grow old with your sibling. And that's really hard for them to have lost a brother, especially their older brother, who was kind of like their brother, but also their father, because he's like the oldest one that they always look up to. So that was really hard for them as well.
Yes, and it continues to be.
Yes.
For anyone walking through deep loss, what would you say to encourage them to keep going or to find something more?
You just have to take sometimes just one breath at a time, one moment at a time. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to say, I got out of bed today. Good for me. I can't get out of bed today. Oh, well, just need 10 more minutes. You have to celebrate every one thing that you do. You can't beat yourself up. Grief is, I never thought I'd be grieving like that. You have to be easy on yourself because there are times that you might not want to be here. You have to give it to God. God has a plan and you don't know what it is. And I would ask him why, but you're not going to get that answer until you're actually there and you're going to go, oh, okay, now it all comes together. And he does have a plan and you don't know what it is and you won't know what it is. You just have to trust that. You have to trust that plan. And you have to take it one step at a time. Like I said, one breath at a time and hope you can make it through.
Do you find that you have the peace that you probably longed for at the beginning of this journey?
Yes, the foundation that I'm doing, it really helps. I really think finding out where our son's heart went helped me find the path that I needed to find something more.
What is your something more?
It's kind of finding something different, but it's finding something more in that I found a way to channel maybe my grief into this foundation and maybe helping people. I mean, I've always been more of a helper, a peacemaker.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of given me my voice in a different way, but in a more way. So I guess you could look at it that way.
Well, I am so happy that you were able to join me here today and just that you're a part of us, because you are now a part of Finding Something More as a nominee, and it's just been delightful getting to know you.
Likewise.
Thank you. Until next time, remember, there's always something more to talk about.